Goals are important in coaching.
But when you overdo it, coaching goals can go wrong.
Coaching isn't project management. Yes, goals matter, but when you over police outcomes, you squeeze the humanity right out of the session. Today, we're exposing what happens when coaching goals go wrong and how to keep yourself out of session jail.
We're going to cover today what that looks like, why it's a problem, why coaches do it, and the alternative. We'll see you inside.
Can't
Hey,
wait.
everybody. And it's goals gone wrong. And I can't tell you how many times I hear the word goals with coaches. And in fact, I think the word goals with coaching has become so unanimous that even people that aren't coaches, that aren't in the coaching world, they equate you must be a coach, you must coach goals. That is what you do is coach me on a goal. Well, I don't have a goal, so I don't need a coach. It's interesting how we've really connected those two things together to mean that a goal must mean coaching. And if I'm coaching, I must be coaching you on a specific goal or problem.
That's the entry level transactional BS of this industry. It's the simple solution. And I want to get the recording of that um, soccer announcer who just goes, go every time I have one of these conversations because coaching is so much more than that, but it's easy to get hung up on just what's the next step or how do we define it.
Yeah. So when you think about what it looks like in a session when goals are going wrong, it's the only thing. What's coming to mind for you?
Fact that we get so hung up on it that there has to be some structure around it, that it's a smart goal, it's a grow process, it's some other acronymy thing that's nothing more than stepping stones to break down and quantify this idea. Yeah, yes, it's important to quantify the idea, otherwise the dream is not a goal. But let's not stop there, because there's the
Wait, before we get
person
into
in
why
front
it's
of
a
you.
problem.
Yeah, yeah.
um, yes, hold that thought. So, goal is a compass, not a cage. And I think a lot of times what it looks like is we're caging the client into the goal uh, versus using it as a compass. And now let's talk a little bit why it's a problem because you have a person in front of you, as you were saying.
And if we in the coach's chair get too hung up on the caging, as you just mentioned, I love that analogy, cage versus compass. If we get too hung up on the goal, we're not with the person. We're not partnering with the person. We're not exploring who they are. It's just what's the next step? And what do you need to do? Who do you need to be? All the classic trope questions. How will you do it? it there is such limited exploration and growth there. And we forget the human being who's actually doing the work.
It's almost like why this is a problem is the way you were explaining that. The first thing that came to my mind was the coach begins coaching the actual goal. All of a sudden, the partnership is around the coach and this goal, not even the person anymore.
Yeah. And maybe it's some of that fluffiness of, well, they're here for a tangible outcome
Yeah, so why is that? Why do coaches do this? Why do they hyper focus on the goal?
because they get hung up on delivering value and thinking the value is getting the client to their destination rather than enjoying and exploring what they're going through, what's happening to them internally, both in what they're noticing and sabotage or other things. That's actually the truer part of the process, the deeper part. But we just need to get you to that next step will make the difference in your life. Yes, and what's the transformation that takes place or that needs to take place to happen to get them there? That's where the magic is.
Yeah, and so just going back to why coaches do it, I also think that there's this I, maybe ICF, if we're looking through the ICF lens, it gets a little misconstrued. Like people think ICF wants us to focus on the goal, and ICF doesn't say goals have to be rigid. They're just saying agreements need to be co-created. An agreement needs to be co-created. There's nothing about a specific goal outcome. And I think that too can sometimes be why coaches are pushing forward this goal agenda, that they have to reach an outcome by the end of the session because that's what the ICF is asking, and that isn't necessarily what they're saying. So let's talk
Yes.
a little bit about, yeah, go ahead. Were you going to say something there?
So just thinking about really quickly, the goal might be over the course of the entire work. It's 3 months, 6 months, a year away. So yeah, the session agreement, which we talked about in our previous video, is the session agreement. Those could be two different things, that we have an agreement of what we're going to focus on today and how does that carry the client forward. And then one of the things that doesn't get talked about a lot, and it's worth dropping in here briefly, is for ICF review for credentialing. It is really easy for the coach to get hung up on this idea: if I need to deliver something, I need to get them to their destination, which is not true. But regular coaching session is focused on the client. A session for evaluation, guess who's being evaluated? That changes the lens so much.
Yeah.
And it's really important to call out, because now who's in the hot seat and who's getting evaluated, who the spotlight is on, is different. And that changes those conversations so much. It's just worth dropping in here very briefly.
Yeah, yeah, but for this purpose, we're just talking about the client and the coach, not that
Yeah.
definitely is important and definitely its own series. And so, what is the alternative to being hyper focused on the goals? What's the alternative for a coach?
Have it loosely in the distance. Like, what is it? And I always think of a football field. I don't know why, but I think of a football field for these things. If we've got a goalpost at the end, your client is the team marching down the field, gaining yards to get to their goal. Whether it's their idea is to get 6, 7 points total, but maybe they wind up with 3. And as we move down the field, and sure, the terrain changes, events change in their life week to week. They're a different person week to week. It's like we poke our eye up and see, where are we right now? Are we on this side of the field, that side of the field? What happened next? So that we can be flexible in our approach, helping them to achieve, versus we are going to strategically march in only one way and get really rigid so that you can achieve your goal. That's making it more about us than them, and not having the flexibility of the journey.
So balance structure with curiosity. And I'm hearing don't put the handcuffs. Don't put goal
Yeah.
handcuffs on somebody. I love it. Um, so, guys, if you are ready to master the balance between structure and presence, that's exactly what we teach inside our course From Mystery to Mastery. You're going to learn how to work with goals in a way that honors both outcomes and exploration without failing in without falling, not failing into any traps. The link's below to learn more and join us.
And in our next video, we're tackling another subtle trap coaches fall into: the metaphor pusher. Ever tried to make a client think in poetry when their brain just doesn't work that way? Stay tuned.